What if, in an alternate Earth, the Nazis have won World War II and not the Allied forces? It happened in an alternate Earth called Earth X, an alternate Earth where hope is lost. Or is it truly lost? Comic Reviews. What's happening, comic fans? It is John of Video Games and the World, and today's comic book review is Freedom Fighters: Rise of a Nation. The Freedom Fighter story has been in DC Comics for a long time. They were introduced in 1973, and since then we had various stories about them. It is an alternate Earth storyline taking place in Earth 10, or Earth X if you like. Earth X is where the Nazis won World War II because of metahumans on their side, and they defeated the Allies. If you're watching this review, I am very sure that you're familiar with the Arrowverse crossover 4-part episode, Crisis on Earth X. It starts out with a wedding of Barry and Iris. Things go good until the Nazis of Earth X attack. The Nazis of Earth X are led by evil versions of Oliver Queen and Kara Zor-El called Dark Arrow and Overgirl. So, Team Arrow, Team Flash, Team Supergirl, and Team Legends must fight against the Nazis and save not only their Earth, but also the people of Earth X. There is also an animated prequel titled Freedom Fighters: The Ray, which I also enjoyed. It was an awesome crossover. Very awesome. Now, we all know various alternate Earths of DC Comics where Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman can have different actions. Like in that Justice League cartoon episode where an alternate version of the Justice League called themselves the Justice Lords. The Justice Lords, after the death of the Flash, have taken control of the world and rule it with an iron fist. There are various stories that take place away from the mainstream universe, such as Earth 2, Kingdom Come, Superman Red Sun, The Dark Knight Returns, Justice League Gods and Monsters, Injustice, and so much more. This is a comic that I really enjoyed so much. It had such a great story, epic moments, but there are some things I have to criticize a bit as well. Enough talk, everyone. Let's start the review of Freedom Fighters: Rise of a Nation. Enjoy! Welcome to Earth X, a world where history is different from our Earth. In the 1930s, a Kryptonian ship crashed in the country of Czechoslovakia, and the Nazi war machine found themselves with the most powerful being on the planet, Kal-El. With their new weapon, known as Overman, Hitler set his sights on America for total invasion, and by the 1960s, all hope seems lost with the defeat of the original Freedom Fighters and Uncle Sam gone. 50 years later, a new generation of Freedom Fighters has risen. They are the Human Bomb, Phantom Lady, Black Condor, and Doll Woman. Together, they make a hit-and-run campaign against Hitler's forces and fight to renew the spirit of the American people that can revive Uncle Sam and put an end to the oppressive regime of the Nazis. Spoilers ahead, everyone. The writing and drawings were very well done. It captured the morbid and brutal world that is one of controlled by the Nazis. Because remember, the Nazis were very, very, very bad people, since they hated anyone that was different than them in terms of creed, appearance, and sexual orientation, labeling them as undesirables. Jews, Africans, Muslims, Asians, homosexuals, transgenders, gypsies, etc. That's how a Holocaust happens. The Nazis believed that they were racially superior than everybody else and called themselves the Übermensch. To them, these that they label undesirables were the lowest form of human species, nothing more like animals. And because they were just like animals, it didn't matter whether they live or die. To the Nazis, life would be so much better if they were all dead. And that is how a Holocaust happens. And that's very, very sad. That people will support such hatred and succumb to such hatred. Very, very sad. I liked various references to familiar characters like Cyborg Superman, and in this one he's with the Nazis, and his name, Heinrich Henshaw, is a nod to Henry Hank Henshaw, who was Cyborg Superman in the Death and Return of Superman storyline. But of course, in this universe, Superman is called Overman. My criticism, however, is that in this story we didn't get to see much of the real him in action, except in flashbacks and seeing Overgirl's death, and all of a sudden flies away. My other criticism is that the Raid didn't have much of a role. I wish he kind of did, like in Crisis on Earth X. An army of plastic men working with the Nazis didn't make things easier for the Resistance, as they were everywhere. Now, the name of the plastic men has two X letters as a nod to the Nazi police called Schutzstaffel. These elongated Nazis were everywhere, concealed and watching, and the fact that they were makes them deadly and even more ruthless. Kind of like a Big Brother vibe type of thing. My favorite character is Black Condor because he's a true hero who is willing and able to make a choice even if it costs his life during a mission to obtain something that can turn the tide of the war in favor of the Resistance and the people of the world, willing and able to stand against the Nazis. We see a flashback on how an African American family was taken by the Nazis along with their baby, and that's how we see the kind of cruelty they have. My favorite part is when the African American workers start to revolt, and when hope seems lost, they recite the Pledge of Allegiance for one last time, when out of nowhere the tides turn in their favor to escape to freedom and fight against tyranny and oppression. This in a way gave me vibes of Crisis on Earth X, when the Guardian of that Earth fought the Dark Arrow and lost. Before his death, he vowed that one day Earth X will be free from Nazi oppression. His shield had the American flag, which was a nod to Captain America's shield in the 1940s before he got the one that was made out of vibranium. Dark Arrow would tell him that the flag died long ago, and Guardian replied that it still meant something. Now, that scene and what I read in this comic got me to think this. America wasn't too great towards African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, women, and LGBTQ, and that's something that Uncle Sam talks about in this graphic novel, which I'm going to get to in a few. In the case of African Americans, they were marginalized and oppressed because of the following: slavery, Jim Crow, the lynchings, the prison industrial complex, police brutality, and so many anti-human things that are so damaging and inhuman. But still, they fought for a country to free it, where they were born into, despite everything, not just to make it free, but better for everyone. Uncle Sam in this story explained that America wasn't perfect even after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Many believed that the spirit of 76 belonged to a certain color or creed, to the strong and moneyed, to men but not women. And that is true because many believed such things back then, and there are those who want to regress America to a time where racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, civil rights abuse, and suppression of free speech were the norm, and that is sad. I believe that all of us, regardless of creed, color, gender, and sexuality, must fight together against those who seek to take away our human rights and freedoms, because the purpose of life is to move forward and fight for a much better tomorrow than what we had yesterday, and not to regress to such evil times. And finally, to wrap this up, I really enjoyed the story, the drawings, the dialogues, and all the awesomeness that came with it. I got vibes from Crisis on Earth X reading this in some moments, and I truly liked it a lot. My final score for Freedom Fighters Rise of a Nation is an 8.5 out of 10. And that wraps it up. This is John of Video Games and the World. Have a good one, folks. Later!